Well, good morning, and thank you for engaging with us in this important conversation. We will do our best to make this a productive use of your time and your commitment to Ocean City. My name is Jim Kelly. I live with my wife in the First Ward, and I am a founding member of Ocean City 2050. We are here to tell you who we are, what we are working on, and what we believe is a better idea for the boardwalk. Ocean City 2050 is a citizen organization formed to advocate for principles of good government. We believe in Ocean City and its family-friendly values, traditions, and culture. And we believe our boardwalk is a critical city asset that honors those traditions, respects our values, and supports the city's unique culture. In this regard, we and a majority of Ocean City stakeholders believe it would be a mistake, culturally and economically, to lose a large portion of the boardwalk and allow high rises to be built there. This raises the question of what would be a good idea for the future of the Wonderland Boardwalk property. We have spent the past 6 months working on an answer to this question. Several objectives have guided our work. We sought an alternative that meets the needs of the city, is economically sound, and can be broadly supported. And in line with the Chamber of Commerce's conditions, we sought an alternative that reflects genuine community input and perspective. Our alternative achieves these objectives. The next logical question is, how can an alternative be considered? Eustace Mita owns the land at 600 Boardwalk, but does not have the right to build a high-rise resort because the property zoning does not permit it. Yes, Mr. Mita owns the land, but he does not own the zoning. Zoning is a public right. The city would have to grant Mr. Mita major relief from our zoning ordinances, which makes this a public process requiring public participation. Our alternative contributes 2 valuable pieces to this discussion. It supports the city in its negotiations, and it offers Eustace Mita an attractive option to consider. I am very proud of the team that shared their experience and their expertise to offer a viable path forward that recognizes the importance of Ocean City's boardwalk. The team's motivation is simple. What is best for Ocean City? Its residents, property owners, businesses, and visitors. The work was not simple. This is a complex matter and required business, finance, design, development, and legal expertise. It also required a team and a process that was open to a wide array of beliefs. We made public participation a top priority by seeking input from all perspectives and being responsive to the feedback we received. Our plan benefits Ocean City, not an individual. Our plan is transparent, not a backroom deal. Our plan reflects the expressed beliefs and aspirations of a majority of Ocean City stakeholders, not the financial ambitions of a select few. At this time, I'm going to ask Bill Merritt to share with you what we believe is a better idea.
All right, thanks, Jim. Thank you all for coming out today. It's the first good Saturday that we've had here, so we're going to get into the beach as fast as we can. So just a little bit about me. So I ran a Fortune 500 company for 20, and so I know my way around, I think, strategic plans, accounting, but that's actually not why I'm involved in this. So I'm involved because I have love for the city. And it was formed over, I've been coming here for 50 years, but I'd say the last 10 is when it really kind of locked in. So I lost my first wife 12 years. I lost my first wife about 12 years ago. And so my Kid and I were kind of wandering, we were doing okay. And then I met Mike Hurwitz, who's Karen was in the audience. And we had this challenge with our kids because we had two kids, both boys, that we had to bring together in a new family after having experienced a lot of trauma. And so we said, well, how are we gonna do that? And so we said, well, let's buy a house at the beach, and that way we can come to the beach on weekends, kids can spend time together. And then they can go home to their respective homes and be safe. And it worked perfectly. And we ended up with a brand new family. And so I've always give credit to the family-friendly atmosphere of Ocean City for, personally delivering a new family to me. So that's why I'm here. It's not because I'm a finance geek or something like that, but I have the skills, but I'm here for passion. So as Jim said, probably the most important point with the process was to gather as much information as we could. So, we all live here, if not full-time, most of the time. So within the group, there's a tremendous amount of information and expertise. We held our own town meetings, so we started last year with one at the Tabernacle. We put out a contest that was actually for the Friends organization to get ideas in from people as to what would work or not work at the Wonderland Pier. We consistently talk with council. We go to council meetings. We are scraping Facebook all the time because sometimes it's frustrating, but there's really good information in there which you can find. We work the boardwalk. We work the streets. We go out and talk to people. There was a scholarly piece written by University of Pennsylvania on this topic. We were engaged with that. All of that was to gather as much information so that when we put something forward, we felt that it was meeting the needs of the city. Next slide, Jim. So what did we find? So the vast majority of people in this town want amusements or entertainment. That's the biggest need, right? The vast majority of people want the boardwalk protected. If you think about our boardwalk, it represents a very small piece of the whole island. And Wonderland was 15% of that small piece. Height is a huge concern. There's a reason we don't have a lot of tall buildings in this town, because people don't want them. We did hear that people said, it would be great if the boardwalk had updated entertainment. It would be great if there was something for the 14 to 17 and 18-year-old crowd. My sons went through that process. They were always telling me, Dad, there's nothing to do. And they worked the boards, and so they knew what was up there. People aren't against, let's say, a small hotel, so they weren't pushing back on that, but they were very worried about it on the boardwalk, and it wasn't a burning need. So, obviously, we all are concerned about parking and congestion and all that other stuff. There was respect for the fact that this is somebody else's property, and they're entitled to an opportunity to earn a return. That's fine. He is. People hate the controversy. They just do. They wish it would go away. And nobody likes litigation. But unfortunately, if this thing were to go down the wrong path, that may very well be the result. So that was the conclusions that we got from really 6 months of data gathering out in the market. Next slide. So what we did from there is the parcel, just for people who don't know, this is the Wonderland parcel. So it's a big parcel. It's 3 acres. It can do a lot. And so we decided that there was a bunch of different needs out there. It wasn't a single need that, so we said, well, let's take all of that and create a multi-use venue. So we engaged an architect to put together renderings. We engaged Dan Gilman, he'll be up next to speak. Dan, this is what Dan does for a living. He is a Wall Street guy who's now running a firm that actually advises clients on doing exactly this type of thing, right? So then we created, and you saw one on the way in, there'll be more, visual presentation of what this concept could be. We really wanted to see how much we could fit on the property. Then we turned it over to Dan and said, okay, does it work? Like, will the numbers pencil out? And And we have more work to do, but at this point, we're very confident that it will work, and Dan will talk about that. And then, like we did at the beginning, we went back out. We went to community groups, we went to individuals, we went to council, and kept getting feedback and kept changing what we had, because we would hear that that doesn't work, but that's really good, and emphasize that. And that led us to, next slide, Jim. The better idea. So before we push the button, I just want to make it clear. So it's designed to be like a commercial advertisement for something that it has a lot of detail. We're not intending to be prescriptive here. So the amusement operator could configure the park the way they want. The hotel developer could build it the way they want. The playground can get built the way it needs to be built. But just to give you a feel for what one configuration could be, we added a bunch of details. Again, we're not here to dictate all those terms. We're really here to to talk about this option and this multi-use venue and what it can deliver. So with that, we hope this works.
Ocean City is at a crossroads. A proposal to build a high-rise private resort on the former Wonderland amusement park site would require a change to the boardwalk zoning laws that would threaten the charm, character, and economic future of our town. But we don't need to see this as a crisis. It's an opportunity to turn a big mistake into a better idea. Introducing Wonderland Commons, a place to play, a place to stay, a place that's proudly Ocean City. This multi-use venue has something for everyone, from young children to teens to adults. Inside the iconic gateway on the Ocean City Boardwalk, Wonderland Commons is a reimagined space where charm, community, and creativity come together. It includes 4 components. Each element is independently operated, but designed to work in harmony, creating a flexible, sustainable, and financially viable model. It's a better idea, a better answer for everyone. At the heart of Wonderland Commons is a boutique amusement park made for kids and their families. No towering thrill rides, just small-scale magic. Classic kiddie rides and carnival snacks, bringing families back year after year. Next door, you'll find a digital entertainment center for teens and adults. VR rides that send you flying through space. Interactive floors that transform into soccer fields, trampolines, and dance zones. This high-tech, high-fun venue is modular and ever-changing, ideal for rainy days and off-season weekends, open year-round. Some of the best moments can be enjoyed at Wonderland Commons' free public spaces, inviting everyone to linger, enjoy, and return. Barefoot kids racing across the shaded fun deck playground, live music and performances for all ages on the bandshell stage, tacos, smoothies, and bold flavors from a rotating lineup of food trucks. Ocean City at its best, where you stay, right here in the middle of the magic. Wonderland Commons includes low-rise, upscale lodging that blends into the neighborhood but elevates the experience. Boutique rooms with a rooftop pool, shops and cafes at street level, all designed to fit Ocean City's character, not overshadow it. These rooms aren't just places to stay, they help fund the entire vision. Wonderland Commons is a modern boardwalk village built on compromise, community, and common sense. It preserves what we love, adds what we need, and welcomes everyone in. This is the better idea Ocean City's been waiting for. Wonderland Commons, a place to play, a place to stay.
Good, this is off to a good start. So if you remember for people who have done these before, that's the most terrifying moment for all of us, because usually the video fails. So we had a puppet show we were gonna do, and luckily we didn't do that. So if you remember what we secured from the community in terms of what they want. And just think about what you saw and what people want, right? So they want entertainment. This delivers entertainment. They want things for a broader set of demographics. That does this. They don't want tall. This is short. They want something that's going to be a draw. So, one of the very important things about a boardwalk, it's a boardwalk, it's named a boardwalk for a reason. You want people to walk. It's like a shopping mall. There's a reason why Neiman Marcus is at one end, Bloomingdale's at the other. It's so the stores in between get the foot traffic. And this sits at the furthest north end of the boardwalk, or at least the commercial boardwalk. So you need to draw people up to it, but not capture them, which is one of the issues we have with the resort. It captures people. That's their business model. That's how they make money. So we think it's a significant draw. It's also a draw for what we found to be a very important demographic, the day tripper. As we all know, since cities got more expensive, the stays are shortening. Dan will talk later about some of the challenges in the rental market. We need those day trippers more often. They're not going to come in to see a resort, they will come in to see this. We think that this design, it captures some of our history. We think that's really important, but it also moves us forward in a very family-friendly way. And last, and by no means least, it respects the neighbors. If you think about what the chamber said, these are consistent with what the chamber was talking about in terms of their conditions. You have a neighborhood of 2-story homes right behind Wonderland. And we went through a bunch of different renderings to say what would work. And they were actually one of the first communities we went out to and said, will this work for you? And they were like, yeah. So it's not that, you hear, oh, people are against change, or the city doesn't want to change. No, we just want good change at the end of the day. So we think we check all the boxes in terms of what the community needs. We think we checked all the boxes in terms of what the chamber asked for. And now we'll have Dan come up and talk about checking the box on the economic side.
Good morning, everybody. I'm a relative newbie to Ocean City. I've only been coming here for 30 years. Was not born in Shore Memorial, so we'll be a local. It's okay, I'm past that. My wife has been coming here for 4 generations, her family, and so our 4 kids at 5 generations. And we love this town. And 10 years ago, we were lucky enough to buy a house on Plymouth Place and raise our teenagers here, and they all have been taggers, mandatory 1-year tagging. And the boys worked at Burt's putting umbrellas in the sand, and the girls did hair braids and worked at the water park, and we love this town. Professionally, I spent 30 years on Wall Street as an investment banker and doing real estate and public-private partnership and municipal finance. 5 years ago, I started my own company, and we have a group of 10. We're financial advisors for real estate developers doing $300 to $500 million projects all around the country. So this kind of stuff is what I do all day professionally, and my wife coaxed me into doing this one pro bono. So like everybody else here, and if we didn't make that clear, everybody here is a volunteer. No one's making any money on this. We have no stake in this. We have no economic incentive in this other than the town. This is just civic people doing stuff to help out the town. We have zero economic incentive. And all the work and the videos and all this stuff doesn't come cheap, and we're just paying for it. We're paying for it. So my wife came to me and said, hey, I heard that Wonderland's up for sale and they're going to put up a giant hotel. And I, because this is how my brain works, I'm like, oh, well, that's interesting. I mean, they can't do that. And then she said, no, they're gonna put up a hotel. And I said, well, I mean, first of all, I can't, and second of all, like, no one's gonna finance a hotel. That's silly. And it's probably just gonna be condos or whatever. And then I started thinking, like, but wow, think of the concessions you could get from the developer, right? I mean, because this is gonna be a deal. The city's gonna come in and negotiate, and wow, they're gonna get, they're gonna get taxes, affordability, they're gonna deal with parking, community space, riparian rights, they're gonna get job create, like, the city's gonna cut an amazing deal on this, right? And then my wife said, no, I don't think they are. You gotta get involved. So anyway, here I am. And we're gonna talk about some of the work on whether this, whether this is financially viable. So yeah, let's jump ahead. Public-private partnership, I mean, this is what I do. All these deals go down this way. They get a little complicated, kind of, or not really. It doesn't matter. They all get done this way. There is no big development of this size that gets done kind of anywhere in the country without a whole lot of this kind of community engagement, without a whole lot of input, and without a whole lot of back and forth between the municipality and the developer. I mean, right now, Wonderland is zoned, for rides, arcades, pizza, mini golf, right? Sell t-shirts, you can do that all day long. You want to go vertical, you want to put in anything where people can sleep, then you need the city to approve it. And if the city's going to approve it, the city is allowed to say, we will give you that, and in return, we would like these things. And these things are things that the city asks your elected officials negotiating on your behalf with your input to get these kinds of concessions. And we're here to encourage that kind of dialogue and to present what you just saw, which is kind of an alternate reality of what it could be. We don't know that if that's how it goes, but we want people to understand that that's how it could go. And we like the plan and we feel like it has a lot of input. But this kind of partnership, this kind of discussion, this is how all these deals go. They're all done this way. So there's nothing. It would be uncommon, frankly, for a municipality not to negotiate with a developer and not try and get concessions from a developer. That would be really be kind of unheard of. So we're here to encourage that. So how does this work? Well, there's a lot of ways these deals can come together, but probably the city finds a master developer for the site. That would obviously be Mita and his team. I mean, they own it, right? And through a series of negotiations and discussions, we get to a master development agreement. We get to an agreement between the city and the developer with a lot of input from kind of every constituency, people in this room and anybody else who has an opinion. And the developer says, I want these zoning changes and I want to be able to do these certain things. And the city says, you can do that, but in return, you'll have to give us these concessions and these benefits. And that turns into a deal and everybody agrees to the deal and signs the deal. And then it's done. And there's no litigation after that because everybody blessed it. Everybody was fine with it and it moves right along. And for this particular project, as we've envisioned it in the video you just saw, there's 4 pieces. Each piece sits on the master site, but each piece is its own little development. There's a little amusement park, there's a playground, there's a band shell, there's a hotel. And each one of those would be financed on its own and developed on its own, but all under the guise of a master developer to make sure it all kind of works and hangs together. And the developer, we think he gets a lot of benefits from this. He'll have a hotel. It's not the giant hotel that he's got in mind, but it's still a nice hotel and should be a very profitable hotel. And I think it's a financeable hotel. He'll get development fees for being a master developer and helping with the development along the way. So there's cash coming in, which he's entitled to because there's work to being a developer. He should get paid for that. And there'll be a sublease on the other parts of the land, and that'll create lease revenue. And we think that's all good. And also, because it'll be a cooperative deal, there's no threat of litigation. Gets kind of some of the air off the controversy in the town because everybody's blessing this. And it should happen a lot faster than trying to push things through that are contentious and then end up in courts. What does OC get? Well, I mean, everybody gets some input into what goes into it. And I think the town will greatly benefit. The city could, as soon as it's done, put up a big coming soon picture on the side of Wonderland and get people excited. So when they're walking down the boardwalk, right, instead of seeing an empty, when you walk down with the grandkids, instead of seeing like an empty building and nothing happening, instead there's like this amazing thing is coming to the town and everybody's on board. And that's what will drive, tourism and get people excited. So that's what we'd love to see. So one other economic reality anecdotally talking to all the other folks who own properties here, show of hands, anybody rent property in town? Couple, yeah. Rents are softer, occupancy is down, rents are down. I think everybody's felt that. Anecdotally, I had a couple of the quant kids at my company pull some market data on this and run the numbers, and Ocean City occupancy and rents are down a little bit from last year and from the year before. More troubling, we compared Ocean City to Sea Isle and Wildwood and Cape May, and they're all up a little bit. So this is with a whole lot of market data, and it's a little worrying, both that Ocean City is kind of flattened down a little, but also that it's falling behind the comparable towns. And is that because of Wonderland? I mean, no, not that exactly, but it doesn't help, right? It doesn't help that one of the two amusement parks and one of the big draws and one of the things that grandparents like to bring their little grandkids to every morning is closed right now. And so part of what we're trying to address is getting some new investment into the town in a way that will drive tourism, that will drive revenue, that will drive people want to come back here, that will push those rents. And the rents drive the property values. So even if you're not a renter, but you think you want to sell your house one day, your house is going to be worth what the house next to you is worth, and that one's renting, and that whole market goes up. So when the rental values go up, everybody's home value goes up. So there you go. So a couple quick questions we wanted to address right off the front, because these are questions that we've gotten as we've been out talking to people and talking to city council and talking to other community groups. And then we want to open this up to Q&A because we want to hear everybody's feedback. I mean, that's really why we're here, is to continue to build this community discussion. So I'll take the first one and then we'll throw it over to Bill maybe. First question we get all the time is, isn't it Mita's land? Yes, it is. He bought it. He owns it. And what can he do with it? Today, he can do anything it's zoned for. He can sell pizza and, put in skee ball and put in bumper cars. He can do anything it's zoned for. What he can't do is he can't go vertical and put in anything residential or anything that's hotel without the approval of the city. Someone in the city has to bless that. And the city that's blessing it are elected officials, and those elected officials were voted in by you people and are paid by you people, and they're supposed to be responsive to you. So your input should matter in that discussion. And if there's going to be a change, you all should have input. So will this cost taxpayers money? Bill?
So that was actually one of the feedback, among the feedback that we got, is we didn't want to create something that created a big bill for the city. Right? So we went to a structure that is predominantly private enterprise, right? There is some component of public structure in there. So you have some of the playground and other things could be private, public. So there may be a portion of this that's taxpayer money, but the other thing that we've been doing to try to push that down as far as possible is, I think you probably had heard before, we had started a campaign to raise money for Wonderland. We're at $1 million now, and that was with most people fighting over this. And now that we have wind at our back, and if we have the city at our back, we think we could do far more, because there's the Save Wonderland group, it's a couple of those folks who are here today. There's almost 2,000 people in that group now. There's passion out there for that. And there are things you can do in terms of selling bricks that will have your name on it. You can have naming rights on the first level. You can have naming rights on the carousel. There's all this way to generate capital to reduce both what the amusement park has to pay on its debt load, but also reduce what the city may have to pay. So we designed it with that in mind. Dan, I'll take the next one. We'll give you the last one. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Yeah. So who would invest? So we've been out talking with people that may be interested. Well, obviously, there's Mr. Mita has the capacity to do the hotels, so that's not an issue. For the digital entertainment center, that was at $1 billion, we actually have an investor for that, he will carry that. For the amusement park, I said, we already have $1 million in, so that's building, and there's also money for the playground. So there's already capital that's been put forward for the venue. So we just need to just keep moving it forward. And then we'll come back to the last question with Dan, because we do get the question, because it's not something that, you know, a lot of people have seen. Is it complicated?
And I guess complicated is kind of relative to me. This is pretty simple, right? But this is what I like. This is what I do. I do a lot of stuff in Chicago. Chicago's like crazy complicated. This is how all these deals get put together. They're all a combination of you know, different teams and different capital that comes together to help build different parts of a project. The proposed hotel, $150 million, I think, was the kind of number everyone's throwing around. We did some analysis on that. That would be a nice hotel at $150 million. It'd be a huge hotel. I don't think it gets financed. I wrote an article in the local paper saying I don't think it gets financed. Could be wrong. I do think that the plan that was shown here is doable. And as Bill said, we've already got, I don't know, something like 2/3 of the money circled up. Just informally, people have been coming out and saying they're interested in playing a role in different parts of it. So we do think it's viable. We don't want to get into the numbers today. This is, you know, number spreadsheet kind of presentation, but we do think it's possible, and we do think it's an interesting template for the rest of the boardwalk. I think a question that comes up a lot is, if they put in a hotel, does that mean that it's going to be hotels all the way down the boardwalk? And the answer is, I don't know, but you know, when you set a precedent, the guy with the mini golf course down there says, I want that too. Now you got to argue why one guy got it and the next guy didn't get it, and you're stuck in that space. It's kind of the thin end of the big wedge there. This is a very cooperative redevelopment of a part of the boardwalk. It brings in fresh capital. It does put some housing, some hotel space on the boardwalk, which will be a little different, but in return for that, you get a lot of public space, you get a lot of amenities, you get a lot of concessions for the city. And it may be a good blueprint for how to think about revitalizing other parts of the boardwalk. So you do put a little bit of housing in the back of one of the lots, but in return, you get millions of dollars of investment in the front facing the boardwalk. And that could, you know, really, there's, you know, a lot of people say like, oh, the boardwalk feels like a lot of, you know, like pizza and t-shirt shops, right? This may be a way to bring in some more money to help refresh it. So we're excited about the template as a way to work to a negotiated redevelopment. Okay, that's a lot of information. People are nodding. We'd like some questions. We'd like some hard questions, and I'm gonna hand the mic over to
And if I could ask, everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, if I could ask the first question, because I talk to people around town and I hear a certain comment a lot. People tell me, what are you talking about? Isn't that a done deal? Is this a done deal? Can somebody just comment on that part of it?
Yeah, so when we got into this and we started to build a campaign to push back. This was the major thing we were pushing back against, because I spent, I think, the entire day at the spring craft fair. And I just, one person after another would tell me it's a done deal. And I would have to spend 5 or 10 minutes with them saying why it's not. And, you know, I think that impression gets created by things like the boardwalk merchants voting to approve, right? So why did they vote to approve? Well, we tried to get into the boardwalk merchants to present an alternative, and they wouldn't let us in. So Wes, what was his comment in the newspaper after they approved the boardwalk? And it was 30 votes. It wasn't a lot of votes. He said it was the Midas Hotel or nothing. That was the choice they were given. Same thing with the downtown merchants. We tried to get in and talk with them. Same answer, which was, well, if it's not this, it's nothing. So there's been this false momentum that's been created behind the hotel. You know, luckily, we urged the chamber to think about this as in a number of different ways. And we were very happy when the chamber came out. You know, the headline that everybody read was the chamber approved. But if you actually read what their approval was, they said you need consensus. Consensus means a broad acceptance of what's being done. That's what consensus means. They said you need to be respectful of the neighbors. 7.5 stories next to a 2-story building is not respectful of the neighbors. There needs to be conversation. So we actually thought finally we had broken through with the chamber to do what should have been going on all along. This is a huge issue for this town. This is I don't think it's overstated when you say this is a pivotal moment for that boardwalk, right? This should not be decided in back rooms. It should not be decided by one person. It should be decided like this here with people coming in.
And Bill, has city council taken any action yet on the developer's proposal?
No, so the proposal has not yet been formally presented to council, but just as a reminder, Cape May confronted the exact same situation with the exact same developer, with frankly the exact same pitch. And Cape May, without there being a formal proposal, said, we love that you want to invest, and we do. We appreciate Mr. Mita wanting to invest in Ocean City. That's not the issue. What Cape May said is, but you need to follow our rules and you need to follow our culture. And they came right out of the gate with that before there was any proposal. For whatever reason, and we're still scratching our heads. And then look, at the council, we spent a lot of time with us. They did give us some very good feedback. So and we did appreciate that. But the lack of a public statement from them, I think goes right back to what you said before, Jeff, is that's why people think it's a done deal, because there's been no official pushback.
Let's take some questions.
So I'm just curious, because I know the Port of Call closes for a month or two, and the Flanders isn't at full occupancy in off-season. So what's the viability for even a smaller hotel to be profitable?
We could talk about hotels on the shore all day. It's a tough market. Without throwing numbers out, I think anecdotally, people can walk around town and see that there's fewer hotels in Ocean City now than there were before, and a lot of them are up for sale, and a lot of them are being torn down and turned into condos. Our house is near Plymouth, and this is almost like every other year another one goes away. And that's partly because it's just a difficult product right now. Hotels, people would much prefer Airbnb. They would much prefer to rent 3 bedrooms with a kitchen for half the price of 3 bedrooms in a full service hotel with no kitchen, right? You get more space and you have a kitchen and you can save on meals, and that's just the format people want. A 250 key hotel would be a challenge. And I will just say, I'm not a big fan of Atlantic City, but we were up there to see a show a couple months ago. We were at Caesars. They got parking, they got great restaurants, they got bars, they got alcohol, they got gambling, they got live music, they got great retail, all, and the place was packed, and that business is struggling with all of those amenities, right? I don't know how you build 250 rooms in Ocean City and think anyone is going to come here in March and want to spend $500 a night. We come here in March, it's lovely, but I don't think that's going to happen. If you really want a hotel, you got to make it smaller. It should not be full service because you can't support 24-hour room service 365 days a year. Like economically, that just doesn't work. There isn't parking for 250 keys. It's 350 parking spots. That is 3 acres. That's an entire floor of the hotel would be parking, right? And then you got traffic headaches with it. So it's too big. You got to make it smaller, and you got to make it less of a full service facility. And then I think you have a shot at making the economics work. It's still tough. I mean, if I was the developer, I'd be trying to put condos in, not a hotel. because the condos are way more valuable than a hotel is, like, they're just way more valuable. I worry that this whole hotel thing is just a, you know, it's a front for ultimately will be condos. Because that's where the real money is, but I gotta take the hotel proposal on face value and say that you actually intend to build a hotel or not a hotel that ends up becoming condos or whatever, but yeah, you gotta make it smaller.
Next question.
Excellent. I'm gonna say one more thing. So the other thing they did in the, when we worked the economics was one, making it smaller reduces your cost, allows you to manage this cost during the course of the year. But also having now access to other revenue streams. So your rental revenue stream is really important in making the whole picture profitable for him. Also, the fact that it's in the resort or in the amusement park enhances the rental value of those. So I think we took a challenging situation for a small hotel and made it more profitable by giving it access to these other revenue streams.
What's the process going forward in order to stop the momentum, which so many people think is a done deal, and change it to this? What happens first and on those?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, so the question is, what's the next step to prevent the forward momentum of the hotel? And I can talk about that, you know, others will have an opinion. I mean, first of all, that's why we're here, right? I mean, that's why this group formed. We wanted to have an alternative proposal out there just so that people can understand this isn't a binary. There you go.
One on the way out.
My lovely wife loved that. I think that, you know, there's some engagement on Facebook, some of it gets a little snarky, but there's some engagement in the social media, and I think people need to hear that. I think folks who are residents here should talk to their city council and let them know, you know, you live here, you vote here, pay taxes here, you don't like this. You should be communicating that early and often. There's signs you can put up. What else?
I think that all that, and because one thing we get pretty consistently is the developer saying there's only 20 people against the hotel. It looks like there's more than 20 people here today. So again, the other thing we could use help on, honestly, is we post ourselves up at the boardwalk every Saturday, and we talk to people. And if anybody wanted to volunteer to come out and work with us, it's actually, you think it's scary, it's actually a lot of fun, because people, you know, in this town are all very nice. You'll get opinions on both sides, and honestly, we like to hear the other side, because that tells us, you know, either we're doing something wrong, like either our message isn't being heard, or maybe our message is wrong, and so we need to tweak it. So anybody that would want to volunteer to come out, see myself or Jim after the engagement, if you could follow the Facebook pages for both Big Mistake, Ocean City 2050, Save Wonderland, because the more numbers we have there, the more we can demonstrate that there's significant opposition to this. So there is. I mean, we know that there's significant opposition. You know, it's always harder for a small organization to get that message out when we're up against somebody with far more resources. But I think we've done okay, and we're building momentum.
Next question. First, our credential, Carol and I live on the corner of Plaza Place and Wayne Avenue. And Wonderland is on the corner.
You're right there.
of Plaza Place and Wayne Avenue. So it is literally in our backyard.
Yep.
And when I'm old, I don't care so much. I'm more concerned with the community. This is the greatest place ever, and we're still secret. I'm concerned about the fact that there's a married couple who has a lot of influence in this town. And I don't know what kind of deals have been made before the sale. I'm concerned that all of the councilmen, every single one of them said they wouldn't approve a hotel last year, sitting on this stage. I'm concerned about the high school and the road. Those roads are thin. The only way that they can get it up, they've got to take part of my property. The only way they can do that to make the entrance in that area. The Flanders, by the way, was a cooperation between the citizens of Ocean City and the developer. So there's historical precedent to that. But Mostly it is what it's gonna do to this lovely town. The greatest place, I've always told people, the best thing about Ocean City is it's alcohol free. The second from that, because where we live is quiet on Tuesday night in July, okay? And you know what I miss the most? The laughing of children.
Yeah.
Everybody on the board has been wonderful, but nobody has said anything about parking. It's horrible.
Okay, so let's talk about parking. 250 key hotel, 1.5 cars per resident, and then another 20 to 25% on top of that for the staff, cleaning, maintenance. You're probably at 400 parking spots. Maybe 350. That's at least the entire site, right? As a parking lot. And so obviously that doesn't work because you can't have the first floor of the hotel be a parking lot. They're just, I don't know, there hasn't been a parking study that shows how on earth you're gonna get that many cars in there. You would probably have to charge for parking to drive the revenue for the hotel, which means a lot of people are gonna wanna not park in the hotel and they're gonna dump out on the street. So, that's obviously a disaster. Everybody gets that parking's super tight. Parking in that neighborhood is super, super tight. And then you gotta figure 1.5 to 2 trips per room per day for the residents and the staff. So you got a ton of traffic. And we need a study for all of this. We need a study for all this. The plan that is up here, the parking is actually under the hotel. I don't know if we showed that, but there is, I think we sized it at 1.5 spots per hotel room. Might have been 2. But it fits. The parking fits under the hotel. So there wouldn't be any incremental parking need. I think that works. But yeah, if there's gonna be a hotel, the city needs a parking and traffic study. I don't know how you would approve it without one.
Next question.
Thank you. I'm Effie Russell. I'm a 40-year resident of East 7th Street between Atlantic and the Boardwalk. So I'm right there.
Yep.
I'll tell you a little story. This was June 6th this year, not even the height of the season. The 18-wheeler delivery trucks, Coca-Cola, Cisco,
Yep.
the only way they can deliver to the Boardwalk is to back up
Me,
7th Street.
me.
Oh, videotape this.
Yeah.
The Coca-Cola is backing up 7th Street to deliver to the Boardwalk. At the same time, the trash truck is coming from the Boardwalk to pick up our trash. There's no room because there's no spaces on either side of the street because it's filled with parking. And they try to negotiate that whole thing. And while that's all going on, I look to the west and there's a school bus coming into the street. So I don't think anyone has ever done anything about the parking. This, I don't think, solves parking and congestion in our neighborhood. I love this plan. I will be very honest. I don't trust Mr. Mita. I heard him say once he's a resident of Ocean City. I don't think he votes here. He has a lot of property, but I don't trust him. I think even for this plan, they'll have to get a zoning change. And once he gets the zoning change, I don't know how we guarantee that he doesn't go ahead and do what he wants to do anyway. I think we should be just like Cape May and just say no.
Can someone tell us, how does our government guarantee if a deal is made on this regard?
I mean, it's a good question, right? Let's just for the purposes of the conversation, give Mr. Mita the benefit of the doubt, right? Just assume he's acting in good faith. The redevelopment zone that he's asked for, or that we think he might ask for, would basically give the owner of that land carte blanche to do kind of whatever they want with it. It isn't restricted to a hotel. It would basically say they could do whatever they want. They could put in condos. They could put in a hotel. They could put in whatever they want there. And in fact, once that zone is put in place, the developer could simply flip the land for $25 million and someone else could buy it. And then they could put in a 20-story building and that would just be that. the way the city prevents that. Well, one is by not giving a redevelopment zone to a blighted piece of land, which is arguably the most expensive piece of property in New Jersey, right? Because we would all love to own that piece of land, right? But the way you do it is you do a negotiated deal. You do a master development agreement where you negotiate specifically what it's going to be. If it's going to be a hotel, I'm not saying it should be, but if it's going to be a hotel, then you need to give a zoning variance for a hotel and only a hotel and no residential, and you can't turn it into condos and you can't sell it. And you know, we still have riparian rights for the city and you can't sell alcohol, and you really lock that down so that you say, if you're serious about building a hotel, then we will negotiate a very specific variance just for that one particular thing. But you don't just give blanket, hey, you know what, we'll flip the zoning to be whatever you want it to be zoning. And that is kind of what the redevelopment zone would be, and that would be not good.
Next question.
On this way.
Yeah.
Got some down.
This side.
Yeah, you're right.
I think it's very commendable that our fellow citizens have devoted so much time and effort to carry an alternative plan. There are some questions I have. Number one, you mentioned the uses of the space. And one of them was a technology center. A technology center, which, as you know, young people have in their phones and other devices. They don't come to Ocean City, go to a technology center. All they do is look at their phone. That's their source. of technology. I mean, that's whether you like it or not, that's the case. Second, use of the space as a playground. Now, I raise children and grandchildren here in Ocean City. And if there's one thing that we have a lot of, it's playground. If you go throughout the city, there are playgrounds, very good playgrounds. And why necessarily another playground would be advantageous, I don't know. And I'm very concerned that on the one hand, we should look for, always look for alternatives. Well, we want to make sure that we have alternatives that are viable. And I've come to almost all of the meetings on this subject. And I haven't heard a viable alternative as far as drawing people to the shore. It just, the people go to the shore, day trippers, nope. I'm sorry. People go to the shore for the ocean. For years before I was a permanent resident here, I didn't even know about Asbury Avenue, we just right down to the beach. And that's what draws them, that's the most important thing. And so I think you have to take into consideration, it's good to say that we can do all of these things, have playgrounds, open spaces, but it comes down to the fact that really, is this going to be much of a draw? When there are alternatives to this. People go to Ocean City to go to the shore, to the ocean. And so I think it's important we continue to talk about this, and we have volunteers, but I think we also have to consider the alternatives that you presented, the 4 alternatives. Are these really viable in terms of drawing people? So thank you very much for listening to my long talk.
Right, I appreciate the comments, and this is exactly the conversation that we want, right? So in terms of the digital entertainment center, so we do have financial interest in that, and that tells me that they believe that there's a demand for this. And I actually know my own sons that my son worked in one of the escape rooms for 6 years. He sees the demand for that. They were packed all the time. And you know, he felt like if you could create more of that and different types of augmented reality experiences, it would be actually a very profitable enterprise. So, but I appreciate the comments. The second is the reason for the public spaces there is to create foot traffic up there. There's not a playground up near the beach. And the foot traffic is actually really important from an economic standpoint, because the more people you have going into the commons, the more people are visiting the food trucks, the more they're visiting the retail, and that all drives revenue for the space. So we're trying to create opportunity up there so that people can go without yeah, the expectation of spending money, but when they get there, they, they buy a hot dog or they buy something else. But I do really do appreciate the comments, whether they're positive or negative, we want to hear them.
Next question.
I have another question, and I think I'll limit it to just one, and not to ramble on. Okay? I understand, I thought anyway, that the boardwalk does not allow hotels. So a variance would have to be issued to even provide this little
That's right.
three-story hotel.
That's right.
So if the variance can get issued for that, what's to stop Mr. Mita from building his multi-story hotel?
Yep, it's a good question. This plan would require several variances, which would be a negotiated master agreement with the city that would include all the variances tied very specifically to these uses, these buildings, these building heights, these room counts, the uses of the rooms, all of that would be locked down in an agreement that everybody agreed on, and then gave basically very little wiggle room to move forward, which is how it's done everywhere. And you say you can build a 30-room hotel and you need this many parking spaces and you can rent the rooms for only this long and not too long, and you can't rent them and you can't sell them and whatever, and I think a lot of this, I think the Soleil property went through a similar process and got locked down pretty tightly as well. So there's precedent for doing that within Ocean City, yeah.
Hi, what are the chances of this concept, which I think is a nice concept, being open to the board and council members and the mayor? I have spoken in front of them twice and they have closed minds. I have personally talked to them and presented. I've had personal dealings with Mita myself, and they were not good, and the mayor even felt sorry for me, what I've gone through with him. Will not do right by Ocean City. So my question is, this is a great concept, but is Mita gonna be open? Has it been presented to Mita? Are all these things, the council members seem very close, and so does the mayor. And, I really feel, I've been told that we as tax-paying residents should have a vote on this, but we can't. And I just don't understand an important issue like this that affects all of us, why we can't vote on this. I understand that Rita is going to make a presentation on July 17th. But it's been changed to August. Are we gonna be informed on all this so that we can make our own presentation? I was cut off twice when I talked in front of these council members. They're not open. And even though this is great, what are our chances of this happening?
So we've met with all of council. And I would say that, there are people on council that have been very helpful in terms of, and I think they're doing the right thing, is that they give us feedback, they give us, this doesn't make sense, this don't work. So that has been very helpful. I would say it's uniform across the board in terms of the assistance. It's hard to know, where the vote goes at the end of the day, but I think we have a shot at this. I think part of the way we get a shot at this is when we wanted to put this out into the public. Biggest challenge we've had for the last 6 months is there's only been one picture out there. And now there's two, right? And people can push back with your council person and say, we saw something different. We want that, or at least we want a real conversation. And I think that's what we're trying to advocate for. We're not advocating build this. We like this. We spent a lot of time and money in this, and we've got investors, but it doesn't need to be this. But it needs to be something that the community all gets around. You mentioned the Soleil. Soleil is a really good example of failure. What happened with the Soleil? It was fiercely fought. It eventually got through, right? And never built because it was too big, too much opposition, no one was gonna finance it. Something this big, and Dan said it really well, you need the community to be fully behind it. And that's what the chamber said, we need the community to be fully behind this. So that only comes one way. You have conversations, you have people say, I like it, people say, I don't, you try to find common ground, you try to build something that makes sense. And not only meets the people's expectations in terms of what they want, but it is financeable, it's sustainable. And so, everybody in this room needs to be pushing back on their council person and saying, we need to have a far better discussion than we have had so far, because you're right, other than what we've been doing, it's going on behind the scenes, right? There's no public discussion on this, other than these things, and there should be, and this should be led by the city. It should be led by the city.
Next question here. Come over here.
Real quick, Joe, 24th Street, the sustainability of the entire project regarding the maintenance for the rides, primarily the Ferris wheel, now that is not cheap. You have taken that into account, it's a yes, no question.
Yes, we have, and we've engaged amusement operators and consultants on that, and we've got some plans for all that.
Next question.
Do you have a website?
We do, so if you go to the bigmistake.org website, you'll see the material, everything that you saw today, the video will be up there. And all the materials that we've been presenting along the way will all be there.
The other question is, like in Palo Motel, they just built something near them, and it's a condo hotel. Now, wouldn't this be viable as a condo hotel? I mean, it's a win-win with a condo hotel where basically investment and people, it's.
Yeah, there's a lot of different versions of what, hotel is these days, particularly with Airbnb and longer stays and limited service. There's hotels, there's condos, there's condotels, there's everything in between. So I think those are all viable. Some of this would be working with the developer and working with the city to see what makes sense, what's economically feasible.
It's a condo hotel.
Yeah. Yep.
So it is a viable alternative to
Yep.
strictly a hotel.
I don't think anybody's necessarily against the format as much as just the size of the thing, right? And honestly, if you're gonna build it, you want it to succeed.
Oh, absolutely.
The worst thing that could happen would be a 250 room hotel that goes under in 2 years. And yeah, and I think I can't think of many other Jersey Shore hotels of this size that have been built. The only one I could think of was the Revel in AC, and that went bankrupt. So, we don't want, that's a nice building. We don't want another one of those. Yeah.
Has this proposal been presented to Mita, who's the most important person in my opinion, because he owns the property?
Yeah, so we've reached out to him, we have a tentative date to get together. I agree with you, we've got to spend time with him. We have more information that we've gathered along the way that we want to provide to him, because he is a very important person in this whole process, so we fully intend to have that conversation.
Next question here.
Thank you. George Bauer, 51st Street, year round, actually, 5th generation. Bowers have been here since 1890 something.
All right.
I was gone, my career was overseas. I did big projects, $500 million up to $2.5 billion. Last one was 560 million, so numbers don't scare me. Put together an incredible team, and I'm enthused that we have a shot. I want to almost make comments on what's been said a little bit and address a few things. A silly question up front. Is the Ferris wheel the original that you're proposing?
So the Ferris wheel, from what we know, is in tough shape. And so the question becomes, what's the best way to spend your money? And this Ferris wheel had really two components to it, right? It was a ride, but it was also a beacon. We can create a beacon in lots of ways. That would be way cheaper than the first wheel. You could also buy a new wheel. I've talked to Scott Simpson about this. I understand the challenges and the delay and the time frame and all of those stuff. But I think if we can create a ride experience that would be like the Ferris wheel, and then a beacon that people can see from the parkway, because one of our things was, you gotta get people to turn left off the parkway, turn left off the 9th Street, right? So,
Oh, you know my comments, don't answer. They're
Yeah.
just food for thought.
Sure.
Okay. The multiple partners idea is very, very good. You're spreading out the risk. One can go down, the others will continue, and you replace that one. It's always good to have a backup plan. The gentleman mentioned condo hotels. If you don't get zoning for hotel, condos and hotel, great backup, very good thought. As far as getting things done with the city, I have a lot to say about that. Matter of fact, I have a letter into the editor to today's Sentinel. It's a different subject, but I don't mind speaking my mind. I don't represent any group, maybe the dinosaurs, but other than that, bringing up a point on the tech room, I wasn't into it at all. I saw your presentation and you know what? It's a great idea. I'm open to good ideas. And I see a great rainy day thing for kids to do and a great hangout, supervised, but a great hangout. With the city. First off, let me say, we're not naive that Mr. Mita doesn't have friends in here today. And I think you did a very good job in, presenting a very fair presentation. Regarding the city, I won't insult anybody because we have some very good councilmen. Follow the money. All right, just follow the money. It's an old saying, but it's very true in this case. Let's see, the music venue is a brilliant idea. That's a draw. Your demographics are much larger for the draw you're going to have. You are also going to, you've designed it for middle, lower, you've designed it for our old beach staff. A large demographic. Actually, it's mentioned in my letter to the editor today. You're increasing your year-round window because of the draw and the different things. And possibly, not to be insulting, lower income people. They can afford to come in the off season. A good example, 1921, Atlantic City started a beauty contest, Miss America. The whole purpose of that was to increase their season. And it was successful until about 20 years ago. It broadened their season. It brought money to the hotels, the restaurants, the businesses. It was just a good thing. So that was a draw. And there are things like that out there. On boutiques, I would like to see them steered towards Asbury Avenue. And think of a good partnership that way, because Asbury Avenue needs a good boost. I think that's where people go for boutiques and longer term shopping and stick to our amusement and what the kids have done there. I'm going to skip a lot of my notes. Let's see. To the young lady over there, I got cut off at city council several times myself.
we're gonna form a club.
Let's see. I'm familiar with one of other Mr. Mita's projects. I will not say who and where because it was confidential. Someone works for him. But there was a project done. It varied quite a bit from the original agreement. And to Mr. Mita's favor.
Yeah.
Let me say that. Another one is with a large hotel. I have heard the rumors, can't dwell on rumors, but a brewery, private club.
Yeah.
They exist, pay $1 a year, you're a member, you can bring your own booze.
Yep.
Things like that. I'd like to keep that out of Ocean City or not have more of it. And thank you for listening. But you put together a great group. You're a winning team. Thank you.
Next question.
Eileen Flynn, 3rd Street. This is really a wonderful thing, but what,
Yeah, you gotta keep it real close to your.
Gotta eat that.
You gotta eat the mic.
Eat the
One
mic.
thing- one thing I haven't heard mentioned this morning, or maybe I just missed it, was the possibility of using the hotel as a wedding or event venue. And have you considered the implications of that? I know I have friends who have live in Stone Harbor. And the Reeds has not been a positive, had a positive impact on those residents there. And I'm just wondering what your take on that, and especially as to parking and alcohol and everything.
Well, in this space, again, we didn't want to be too prescriptive, right? And so that would be part of the discussion going forward, and concerns like that would be brought forward. But one of the things we did do was, at Dan's guidance, is try to make the space as flexible as you can. So if it's hard to see in this picture, but so we call this the gateway structure, right? So that's the old, it's a, revitalized version of the old gateway into Wonderland. So you have rooftop space there, you have rooftop space on top of the hotel as well. They could be used for special events, right? And so, but the idea is sometimes it's public space, sometimes it's private entertainment. It allows the cost to be managed because you're reusing as much of the space you can. That doesn't answer your question, which is, well, would those type of events be the right type of events there? And I think that's really just part of the discussion and would get captured in the master agreement, which may say maybe the events are in the shoulder season or there are certain times of the week or whatever. So those were things that would get managed along the way.
Good afternoon. I just would like to remind everyone that the city is under no obligation to grant a redevelopment zone on this site. The city, our city council, again, there's no obligation. It's up to the taxpayers in this community to remind city council that they're under no obligation to create a redevelopment zone. When a city creates zoning standards in their community, zoning standards are very important to create quality of life in a community. And there are other options to request a zoning variance. And that applicant can go through the zoning board and request a variance, and the zoning board can make that determination whether to grant or deny. For the city to look at granting a redevelopment zone, it has to meet certain criteria. And in my opinion, this really doesn't meet that criteria. This is a way for developers to bypass the zoning standards and bypass the usual input that would be coming from residents in the community. So again, don't think that this is a done deal as has been set out there previously. It's far from a done deal to create the redevelopment zone. The city has an obligation to go through the process carefully. The state has the opportunity to look at the process that is done, and there's a lot of opportunity for the community to be heard in this matter. So, don't think it's a done deal, and the redevelopment is not a given fact and not a done deal. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, just one, I'm gonna sort of go back to where I started. We want to respect everybody's time. It's 11:15. We've been here for an hour and 15 minutes. I'm gonna ask Jeff to take 3 more questions from the audience. And then we're gonna run the video one more time if you'd like to get another look at it. But let me assure you, Dan is here as long as, if there's more questions, Bill will stick around, I'll stay around, and the rest of our team in the audience will stick around beyond these 3 questions. I just want to be respectful to the group that, a Q&A period, once it goes, 45 minutes, people start to physically get uncomfortable, mentally get uncomfortable. So let's take 3 more, and then anybody, we'll stay and answer other questions. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Helen Struckman. I'm here with Save Wonderland, and just to really emphasize that everyone here should be picking up a button. I know that Bill's got buttons in the front. I believe that he probably has signs. One of the ways that I think we can really show city council and South Jersey and all of the greater Philadelphia area how important this is to the community is by making it very visual. I mean, the Safe Wonderland, we have a petition, that's actually an online petition with change.org. We've got over 4,700 signatures. And everyone here should be signing that petition. It's available on Save Wonderland's Facebook page. I think that Judith was asking about when will people be alerted to various meetings with META. I know that Save Wonderland saves, or shares rather. There's another Facebook page, I think it's Ocean City meetings and various events.
we share all the agendas, we share all of the dates, and we don't really do anything on Instagram or on other venues, but with Facebook, there's a lot of availability on Facebook. I don't know whether Big Mistake has things on their website, but these are ways that you can really pay attention to what's going on in the community, not just with this particular event, but also with other variances and other zoning relief that's being asked for around the city. But everyone here, if you believe in this project, please make your voices heard, make it very, very visible so that anybody just driving down the street. I mean, I would love to see, 10,000, big hotel, big mistake sign. I'd love to have everybody, when I'm wearing a button, like everywhere I go, I've got a button in my purse, and I can't tell you how many conversations that has opened up. I've been all over the country just wearing my little button, and people have asked me about it. People said, "Oh my gosh, I'd like to know Wonderland, it's in New Jersey, what's going on with that?" That's open up conversations. So, if you want to, pick up a button from Bill, pick up a sign. We still have some no zoning change signs. We also have protect our boardwalk signs, but the main thing is don't let your voices be silent. Let people see just how much this city means to you and how much this project and that particular parcel means to you. I mean, if you want a giant hotel, then, obviously we've got a different conversation here, but if you want to have something that's going to be really consistent with, the history and the culture of this island, let people know where you stand. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just full disclosure, I am president of Flanders Hotel. I've been the president for 20 years. You know what? I like what Jim Kelly said. I'm proud to be one of the founding members of 2050 of Ocean City, something we really care about. The turnout today is absolutely amazing. And I know you people care about this town. At the Flanders, we've tried to do everything we could to fit within what you wanted. And I don't think this plan fits in what you want to start with. Dan, presentation was outstanding, outstanding. But I could talk on different points, but there's 2 points I think are important. I'm also the spokesman for the Hotel Motel Association. And we had a meeting 2 weeks ago. And 90% of the lodging facilities rentals are down.
Yeah.
In Ocean City, 90%.
Yeah.
You talk about parking and traffic. Think about our hotel, all right? And I'm going to disagree with you on one thing. We track everything on parking. A 1-bedroom unit, king-size bedroom unit, you gotta understand, times have changed. Your wife sometimes drives down, you drive down, one of your sons or daughters drives down. For every 1-bedroom unit, we track 2.1 cars, 2.1. To run our hotel, which is 100 rooms, we have 110 employees for the summer. Can you imagine how many employees will be at that hotel? And one other comment, because Bill touched on it briefly. Yeah, that Ferris wheel's a problem. In order to have that Ferris wheel repaired correctly, it would have to go back to Italy. And it would take about $2 million to repair it in proper condition. Just some comments, and I appreciate it.
Thank you for the question. Thank you. I appreciate your team, tremendous organization, all the work you put in, the effort, tremendous. I just want to understand the timeline. So Meta's going to be making a presentation to the zoning board in August. So then what would happen thereafter? Will your team make a presentation to the zoning board also, or do you need the zoning board to use your information to counter his proposal? I'm just trying to understand what the logistics are here.
Yeah, it's more the latter. So it depends upon what path he chooses to go. So what we've heard is he wants to go down a redevelopment path, and the redevelopment path works as follows. He goes to city council, asks for a redevelopment zone, city council refers that down to the planning department or planning board. Planning board does their work and decides whether or not it should be a redevelopment zone, and this has actually nothing to do with the hotel. Zero. It all just has to do with the site as it exists today. If it's determined to be a redevelopment zone, that comes back up to city council. City council votes to designate it a redevelopment zone. It still has nothing to do with the hotel. Then the discussions about the hotel start. And that can be, it can go back to planning or it can stay entirely at city council. And that is basically a negotiation that goes on as to what, you know, if you want to build a 255-room hotel, there's all this stuff that goes on with respect to that. And then there's ultimately a vote by council. The public has certain opportunity to be heard in that process. But as you said, what we're trying to do is, one, just stop that process by saying there is a better idea for this, a better idea. And then if the process begins, give people, the decision makers in that process, a different view and say, no, we don't want to do that. So they vote it down. So either we stop the process or we vote the process down. If it continues to move forward, and we've been, you know, very upfront, that there will probably be litigation at that point. And then litigation takes, as we all know, takes a few years to work its way out. There was litigation on the Soleil, so it's not common, but it's not new. So that's the process.
The last question in front, but I'm not gonna let the lady speak until she shows us the best T-shirt that's here today. That says, "Don't play Monopoly with our boardwalk." Let's go.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the team and thank you for everyone who's here today. I live on Plaza Place. I can see the Ferris wheel from my bedroom window. So this is near and dear to me, to my family for generations. Two things. One, Philadelphia media, like the news that everyone's watching because we don't have local, they do present it like it's a done deal. So I think that's part of our, you know, something we have to kind of combat or get over. Just one thing about this fantasy that a hotel is needed. You know, Disney World has a bunch of beautiful hotels, but the day the parks all shut down, who is staying there? Nobody. So this entertainment space, I love these ideas. This will be a draw. I'm excited to see it. Anything I can do to support you, I'm in it for the long run. Thank you.
Thank everyone for attending today. If anyone has any other questions, please come down. Feel free to ask them. We'll stay upon those questions. Thank you.